One arcade board, brilliantly consoleized, and with the help from a hedgehog, took the world by storm. Let's take a look at the Sega Genesis.
And so it was, late in the 20th century, that a pox fell upon the land, a plague of home videos that were limited in intelligence. There was brain drain, and terminal boredom swept the countryside. The maker looked down and was not pleased by what he saw, and said, "This is not good." And so it was, he brought forth Genesis, a system with twice the power, twice the intelligence, twice the challenge, twice the fun. Only a chosen few were called forth to experience this new dimension of high-definition graphics and stereo sound. And the maker saw what he had done and said, "Now that's not bad. Discover Genesis, and your world will never be the same."
What's up, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Take a Look At. In today's video, we'll take a look at that console right there. That's the Sega Genesis. And if you guys have been watching these videos, we're going to kind of follow the same structure. We'll be looking at the history of the system. We'll go ahead and take a look at the console, kind of a 360 view of it, just kind of showing the different ports and where things plug in and other things like that. Then we'll go ahead and plug it in and fire it up and play some of the popular games that were on the system at the time. Just a little bit of gameplay video there. And at the very end of the video, I'll have a conclusion, my thoughts on the system, and kind of my history with it as well. And I almost forgot to mention, guys, I also put commercials in between all the different segments. So basically, it'll be all the old school commercials for the Sega Genesis from back in the day. So keep an eye out for those too. Some of them are pretty cool. So let's go ahead and take a look, guys.
Genesis does
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free. What Nintendo? Buy a 16-bit Genesis system between now and October 31st and get an extra game free.
The story of the Sega Genesis actually started in the early 1980s. Sega's arcade sales were starting to slump, and they saw the need to get into the home console market. The push to get into the home console market was led by Sega Enterprises Limited president Hayao Nakayama. So in 1983, Sega released the SG-1000 in Japan only, but the system didn't fare well against Nintendo's Famicom. In 1984, Sega arranged a buyout with their owner, Gulf Western, which Sega was a subsidiary of, and Nakayama was named president of the newly formed Sega Enterprises. Within 2 years of the SG-1000's release, Sega released another console named the Mark III. Now, we all in North America know the Mark III as the Sega Master System, which was released here in the United States in 1986 to compete with Nintendo in the American market. However, just like in Japan, unfortunately, the Master System wasn't very successful, which Sega already anticipated, and within just a few days of launching the Master System in the United States, work already began on a new console with two of Sega's best R&D engineers at the helm, Hideki Sato and Masumi Ishikawa. But in 1987, another stroke of bad luck hit Sega. NEC, one of Japan's biggest electronic companies, decided to launch the PC Engine. Sega at this point saw the need for a 16-bit system because of the release of the PC Engine and rumors of a 16-bit console being developed by Nintendo. So the decision was made by Ishikawa to develop a system with a 16-bit microprocessor and a second 8-bit Zilog coprocessor to help take the load off the main processor for the system sound. The exterior design of the Mega Drive was actually trying to emulate audio equipment of the time and also the interior of automobiles. This decision was made to distance itself from toy-looking consoles, hoping to attract older consumers. The Mega Drive was released in Japan on October 29, 1988. Unfortunately for Sega, its release was 1 week after Super Mario Bros. 3 was released on the Nintendo. And with the PC Engine being very popular in Japan as well, Sega was running a distant third in the console race in Japan. Sega now knew at this point it needed to act in North America and fast. Tonka, an American toy company, was marketing the Master System for Sega at the time, but Sega was not impressed by their marketing tactics, so for the Sega Genesis they decided to seek help from another company. Sega then contacted Atari and made a proposal with CEO Jack Tramiel, but Tramiel refused the offer, instead deciding to work on the Atari ST line of computers. So at this point, Sega basically said screw everybody and opened its own Sega of American division to handle marketing and distribution of the Sega Genesis. The Genesis launched to a limited market just like the NES did previously. This was done to test the American market before a full release. It was launched in New York City and Los Angeles on August 14, 1989. And due to the successful sales of the console, it was released to the rest of the United States later that year in several batches. And Sega, in different parts of the world, decided to distribute the market through different companies as well. It was released in Europe and Brazil in September of 1990, and in other parts of the world with different distributors on various dates. Marketing in North America was handled by former Atari Corporation Entertainment Electronics Division President Michael Katz. He wanted to market the system for its arcade-like gameplay and graphics, and came up with the slogan, "Genesis does what Nintendo don't." But by mid-1990, Katz did not reach the sales goal by Nakayama for 1 million units, and only 500,000 were sold. So at this point, Nakayama fired and replaced him with Tom Kalinske. He saw that Nintendo was successful with having an iconic video game character like Mario and wanted to repeat that kind of success. At this point, Sega's mascot was Alex the Kid. Although popular in Japan, in the North American market, nobody really knew him and didn't relate to the character. Sonic was made to show the speed and graphic capabilities of the Genesis, along with being a cool character, as Sega was trying to reach a cooler crowd of gamers. The strategy worked and sales of the Genesis increased. Other marketing techniques were put in place, like reducing the cost of the console, hiring developers that targeted American audiences, and a very aggressive ad campaign. Sega was also successful on creating different add-ons for the system as well. With the addition of the Power Base Converter, 32X, and the Sega CD, Sega had reached the 32-bit and CD-ROM game market, and having backward capability to the Master System helped sales of the old Master System games as well. Sega also showed their hand in the rating system for video games. In the early to mid-1990s, watchdog groups were condemning video games for the violence that they portrayed. Sega even went to congressional hearings because of games like Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. During these proceedings, the video game rating system was set up, and by December of 1994 was being put on video games. But since there was a rating system now, Sega decided to release Mortal Kombat 2 completely uncensored, and not having to use a code to get the blood and fatalities like in the original Mortal Kombat. So they were really the first to test the system, and it worked, as we can see by the games that are released today. Sega discontinued the Genesis in 1997, selling over 30 million units worldwide. Another 4.5 million units were sold by other distribution companies worldwide as well, bringing the total to about 35 million consoles. With most of these sales being in North America and Europe, Sega finally achieved success in the home console market with help of great marketing and one little hedgehog.
Those who purchased something other than a Sega Genesis,
Yeah, that's it.
our sincere condolences.
What a waste.
When you start with a Genesis, you can always add a Sega CD and new Genesis 32X. Everything else is cold and stiff.
Burial or cremation?
Burial or cremation?
Burial.
Burial.
Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial. Burial.
Burn it.
Welcome to the next level.
Alright guys, so here's a Model 2 Sega Genesis. So let's kind of take a look at this and see what's all on it. So here's your power button. There's your reset button. This is where you put your cartridges in right there. Here on the side is the expansion port for the Sega CD, and that's what this metal thing here is for as well. That's basically the bracket for the Sega CD, so it stays in place. It doesn't come sliding out. On the back here, you have your AV port, and then your power port, basically, where your adapter plugs in. Nothing on this side. So, pretty basic, just your typical old school retro video game system. So let's go ahead and get her plugged in and fired up, and let's do some gameplay, guys. So here's the Sega Genesis in the actual Sega CD cradle, plus the 32X plugged into it as well. So these are all the different expansions or add-ons that the Sega Genesis had. Now I didn't really include these in the video because I kind of see these as being consoles all on their own instead of just being add-ons. So they'll have their own take a look at videos. So just keep that in mind. These will be coming up in the future. But let's go ahead and power this thing on and see what we got going on. Press power there. Fires up. Now I have the EverDrive in here, so this is the flash card for my system. Now I've had this thing forever, over a decade, and it still works, no problem with it. So let's go ahead and play a game. I don't even know what is loaded in the ROM. Oh, Mortal Kombat, look at that. Perfect. So let's go ahead and do a little gameplay video of this.
Fight! Fight!
Alright guys, let's go ahead and load up another classic game here on the Sega Genesis. So this time we're going to go ahead and select game, because Mortal Kombat is whatever game I played last that was saved on the ROM. So what it'll do is reflash the ROM file, so it'll play a different game. So let's go ahead and do that. So we want to go to Genesis ROMs, and we'll go ahead and load up Sonic. Let's see here, Sonic the Hedgehog, where is he at? Right there. Alright, press start. And it takes a minute because, like I said, it erases the ROM and then it rewrites it so that it can load up the game here. EverDrive is pretty cool. You guys should get one if you don't have one. Alright, let's do some gameplay, guys.
designers of Sega's new World Series Baseball set up cameras to capture what it really feels like in a Major League box, then made it so you can pick any Major League team in any ballpark, and made it have all the players, even the guys riding a pine. So with Sega's new World Series Baseball, everything happens, well, more like it does in real life.
Hey, Ricky!
Oh!
Alright guys, so we've come to the end of this video, but before I basically end it and finish it here, just kind of wanted to give you my thoughts and my impressions of the Sega Genesis console. So the Genesis came out when I was in high school, and basically it was the system that I played. Now the Super Nintendo came out a little bit later, I think a couple years later, but the Super Nintendo was kind of seen as being a toy still. Like when they came out with Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo and it didn't have any of the cool fatalities or the blood or any of that. That's kind of what turned off a lot of people on the Super Nintendo, and a lot of people turned to the Genesis at that point. And it was really successful all the way up until like the mid-90s. Yeah, I used to have my friends from high school come over, play it. I used to go over to their houses, play it. So the Genesis does definitely hold a special place in my heart as well. Like I said, I didn't really play much on the Super Nintendo. The only game that I really played on the Super Nintendo were the Mario games, Donkey Kong Country, and Madden. For some reason, I like playing Madden better on Super Nintendo. I think it was the shoulder buttons, which nowadays all game controllers have, so that's probably why. But anyway, guys, I just kind of want to give you my impression of this as well. And I just wanted to thank everybody for watching the video and everything. There will be plenty more of these coming up as well, so just keep an eye out. I do post these on Saturdays. And my next one won't be on a console. It'll actually be on a classic computer, so keep an eye out for that. All right, guys, have a good one. Peace out.